Before I show you how I built this vanity, you need to see what was hiding underneath the sink. Some contractor before me had cement glued plywood strips to the bottom of the countertop. Why? I honestly don't know, but that one hidden problem found after we'd already signed the contract nearly cost me the whole build. Okay, let me start at the beginning. Last year was my first attempt at cabinetry work. I built a vanity for our daughter's bathroom. Twice, because the first one wasn't good enough. A walk-in pantry with a drawer style you've never seen before. And just earlier this year, my first commissioned piece, a set of nightstands that nearly ended in a bonfire. A realtor I'd just met called and asked if I could build a small vanity for her rental property, a place I'd never set in before. Clearly, she never saw my 3 videos from last year on my own vanity build experience. Well, her last tenant, we don't know what happened, but the vanity got destroyed from water damage. She gave me the dimensions over the phone and overall look she wanted, so I could work up a quote. I ran the numbers and sent her the bid along with what was included and not included. She was silent for 2 days and then called with a yes. We met up at the rental so I could see the space, but I learned the sink she wanted to reuse had a massive amount of 3/4-inch plywood strips, cement adhered to the bottom. I had about the tolerance of a black MX, or what I imagine that is. I've obviously never held one. My last vanity, although larger, took me 2 tries and 3 months to build. She wanted this apartment show ready in under 2 weeks. So I had a lot to do, a heat wave rolling through, and a countertop someone sabotaged before I ever showed up to the scene. I'm making this video for the maker who says yes to the job and then finds out what she's actually agreed to, or anyone who's ever been handed a simple job that turned out to be anything but. This story starts back in November at a fundraiser table I'm so glad I booked. The Children's Health Guild puts on a holiday event every year. It's a great event for an even better cause, and it turned out to be the best show I've ever done. I was deep in it, boards everywhere, the laser engraving without a break, and answering all of the questions, when a stunning woman ran past the booth, barely slowing down, and called out, "Hi, do you do closing gifts for realtors?" "Yes," I said, "absolutely, here's my card." And she was gone. I didn't get her name, I didn't get her number. I figured I'd never hear from her again. But a few weeks later, she called. Her name is Janie, and she, along with her husband and realtor partner, wanted to book a time to come to my studio and pick out closing gifts in person. Janie and John are the kind of people you meet and immediately want in your corner. And somewhere between that very first visit and now, Janie has turned into my single biggest cheerleader. So when she threw a party, a just because party, no birthday, no anniversary, no reason at all, except that we're here and we're alive, I knew I had to go. That night, Janie introduced me to half the room. One of those introductions was a realtor based in Palo Alto named Carol. We hit it off fast. I mentioned I was welcoming an intern this summer through a program with the local Jewish community, and Carol lit up. Her daughter did that exact program when she was in high school and had a great experience. Carol loved that I was a participating business, and just like that, we were on the same team. A month or so passed by before one afternoon my phone rang with an unknown number. Now, I spent over 5 years as a personal assistant, so I'm just in the habit of answering every single phone call, because you never know when it will be a real person with real work on the other end. And this was real work. Possibly. Carol had a problem. She needed a new vanity for a small bathroom in one of her rental units. The last tenant destroyed the old one with water damage that we still can't fully understand. She'd been hunting for something she liked that would also fit and was coming up empty. And here's the part I love. Carol had no idea I'd ever even built a vanity before. No idea what it put me through. She just knew I was a woodworker, and she thought she'd give me a call to explore. She talked me through the bathroom, the look that she wanted, the finish, the color. I took down every measurement and told her I'd work up a quote. I built the whole thing in Make by Me. It's my go-to basic design software. That way I could see how much material I needed. And then I made a list of materials. The wood, sure, but also the hinges, the handles, the finish. A few hours later, I texted Carol a quote. What it included, what it didn't. I'd deliver, but I was not going to install. Clear lines up front. And then, nothing. Typical. I mean, how many quotes actually turn into contracts? I also knew she had a tight deadline, so she could post the new listing for a new tenant. 2 days of silence, and I'll be honest, I wasn't actually worried about not getting the job. I was worried about the timeline. So I nudged her, and she wrote back in about 4 seconds flat. Let's do it. When can you meet me at the studio? Is it cool if I show you the space in person? And I responded with, well, I actually prefer that. Because here's the thing she mentioned almost in passing. She wanted to reuse the existing undermount sink and countertop. On the phone, that sounded completely fine. I had no reason to think otherwise. And then I saw it. The studio was small, the perfect bachelor pad for a software engineer who probably only uses it for sleep and showering, because they spend so much time at work and have all the perks there, like laundry and meals. Cozy, but small. And then I saw it, the first water-damaged old vanity. I literally don't understand the physics of how this happened. I was a bit distracted by the old vanity crumbling before our very eyes, and that's when I saw the sink, upside down on the floor, resting on a moving blanket. What was all the stuff under the countertop though? Like, why did the contractor bondo 3/4-inch plywood strips to the bottom? My best guess, they were trying to keep the undermount sink from dropping out? I don't know if it worked. I only know what it did to me. I told her over the phone that reusing it would be no problem. Standing there, I still believed it, but I knew this was going to be quite the challenge because those little plywood strips ate my margin for wiggle room. To drop this countertop and sink down into a brand new vanity box, what we call the carcass, I now had almost no room from side to side. And here's the honest part. I could have stood in that bathroom and said, yep, no problem at all. That's the temptation in front of a brand new client you really want to impress. But that's not how I build, and it's not how I talk. So I told Carol the truth. I can do this, but it's a real challenge, and getting the fit right is going to take some very careful work. The thing that saved me? She let me take the sink and countertop home, which meant I could do my measuring, my templating, and my muttering in the privacy of my own garage instead of someone else's bathroom. I could have also increased my price, but I didn't. I still haven't learned. Now, the clock. I had 15 days until Carol's deadline. Sounds like plenty of time. And even given my track record from the vanity I built last summer, it wasn't. I don't usually work weekends, so remove 4 days. It was also the very end of the school year, which if you've got kids, you know is practically its own job with short school days and end-of-year events. And just to keep things spicy, the forecast had a massive heat wave headed straight for my studio. So a sink that was actively working against me, a tolerance I could barely measure, and a calendar full of holes. This is the part where last year I would have panicked, but this year I made a plan. You already saw me do a lot of work. The most important part was templating. I used the same templating strips used by countertop fabricators to trace the exact shape. Normally you stick them together with a little acetone, which I couldn't find anywhere in my shop that day, so I improvised with blue tape. With transferring that template onto a piece of cardboard, I had a full mock-up, and it worked. That cardboard saved me from an expensive, heartbreaking mistake before it could ever happen. I took what the cardboard taught me and amended my measurements in Plan and Make by Me. Then I looked at my actual sheet of plywood and worked out which section to use for each visible part, because where the good face lands really matters. And small rant, but this is where Make by Me drives me up a wall. It's not great at helping you actually make the most of your material. The image it shows is literally cut off. Even the part that labels each cut with a letter isn't intuitive. I've tried other softwares, but they were too engineering forward, and I've got more of a designer's eye. So if you're a maker, what software do you use to plan your projects? Anything I should check out? Drop it in the comments. I read every one and I'll reply. Thank you. After a lot of planning and even more thinking, I was finally ready to cut. So I had 7 working days left, and a few of those I'd lose entirely to finishing cure time. No pressure. Day 2 was a big day. I got all the cuts made for the carcass, dry assembled the whole box, and then came the moment. The first dry fit with the sink. It worked. So far. From there, it rolled. Shelf pin holes drilled, edge banding on, light sanding, and the first coat of Rubio Monocoat in a color called Mist. It was a lot of work for one day, but standing back at the end of it, I felt good. Carol wanted the front simple, no drawer, a false front panel across the top, and 2 doors underneath. Honestly, I lobbied for 1 door. The whole thing is only 24 inches wide, and 1 clean door would have looked elegant. But Carol wanted 2. It's what she's had before, it's what she's used to, and I think she was thinking about the opening function too. This vanity is wedged into a corner, so the door layout and swing actually matter. Little things like that decide everything later on. So I went hunting through the white oak plywood for the right grain. I found a beautiful section with cathedrals, those arching church window grain patterns that would look gorgeous across the front. I measured the box carefully, lined everything up, and cut the pieces out, almost cutting the plywood in the wrong direction. Almost. Phew. I thought everything was golden. The dry fit was great, so I pressed on. Edge banding on all the sides, I drilled the holes to hang the doors, and that's where the fun began. So let me tell you about hinges. I tried something like 4 different hinges and made 5 trips to Woodcraft in 4 days trying to land the right ones. I needed a full overlay hinge. At first, I bought the same hinge for both doors. Then I'd realized it'd be much nicer if the right door opened much further. It's way better for actually using the cabinet. And reading these instructions, you need a PhD in hinges. No, seriously, 1 door wanted a 3mm setting, the other a 6. I drilled my holes, mounted the first one, and it looked beautiful. Except it was rubbing right against the carcass edge banding. So Nicola came over, as we like to call, giving me a consult. She did a ton of full overlay doors in her own house last year, so she's miles ahead of me on this one. One look and she recommended a different hinge for the right side. Turns out one of the hinges I bought was only a partial overlay, so back to Woodcraft. And right about now, it's getting hot, which is strange because the forecast keeps saying a high of 85, but we're under a heat advisory. When I went to pick up my kid from camp, it was 96 degrees. So my studio days are getting short, and I could feel my brain melting a little more each afternoon. So to keep moving while I still had a working brain, I put the Rubio Monocoat on the front pieces and gave it the whole weekend to cure. And right now, we wait, which, if you know me, is the hardest part. While the Rubio cured over the weekend, I wasn't exactly sitting still. My husband and I had a little side project waiting. 6 display stands for 6 pieces we've collected. And the star is this, a 95 million year old dinosaur tooth. Tony had wanted a real fossil since he was a kid. So for his birthday this year, he bought one. It came with the saddest little plastic stand you've ever seen, and a childhood dream deserves better than plastic. So we made it as a team. He bent some metal, I shaped some wood. By the end of the weekend, we'd given all 6 pieces a proper stage. If you want the whole story behind these 6, including a very tragic moment involving a 6-year-old unboxing that I'm still not over, that's a whole other video. This was a fun project to do with my husband, but by Monday, the Rubio had cured and it was time to get back to Carol's Vanity. Coming off the weekend, I went to mount the hinges for real, and that's when I found my next mistake. The top 2 hinges screw into the carcass right where the holes for the adjustable shelf already are. I went higher with the shelf pin holes than needed, so the screws had no purchase. So back to woodcraft, and they had oak plugs that fit the holes perfectly. I glued them in and got to use my fancy Japanese handsaw. And honestly, this part felt great. The left door finally sits off the frame and opens cleanly against the wall. And the right door now opens at a full 170 degrees, so it swings way out of the way and makes the storage underneath actually easy to reach. After all those hinge headaches, this one felt like a win. I sanded down the little plugs and did some Easio Rubio touch-up. But before we move on, it's time to engrave my logo to the inside of the door. Now for something brand new to me, Carbon Methods Ceramic Nano Finish. I've never touched this product before. It's a ceramic coating for wood. The company describes it as a nanoscale layer of, quote, diamond hard glass, rated a 9H on the hardness scale. It's meant to protect against water, oil, UV, and chemicals, right down to that dreaded water ring. And for a vanity that's going to spend its whole life around water, that's exactly the kind of protection I wanted. I went all in and ordered the full kit, which set me back a pretty penny. The application wasn't exactly self-explanatory, but their YouTube videos walked me right through it like a charm. Now, if you remember back to the beginning of this video, water damage is the whole reason we're in this in the first place. So I primed the surfaces with their spray and did my best with the hard coat. I think I did 6 coats, and you do 1, wait an hour, so that was a full day. And with this heat, I'm sure it dried real quickly and I was pretty tired. So this one 10-minute clip is actually the only clip I had, but I promise I did the whole thing. One last detail before the delivery, the doorknobs. We actually reused the knobs from Carol's old vanity. They matched the faucet she was keeping, so it just made sense. A little piece of the old bathroom carried into the new. I have a few thoughts that I want to kind of wrap up with a nice bow. The Carbon Method stayed true to their word in that it didn't change the color of the Rubio Monocoat. And I think, just like how I've gotten better at applying the Rubio over the years, I'll get better at applying the ceramic coating too. I'd like to spend a little bit more time with this on a sample piece of wood to actually third-party test their water ring claim. I also know someone out there is asking the question, why didn't I hack away at the cemented wood under the countertop? I thought about it, but I decided to leave it for 2 reasons. 1, it was a good challenge to see if I could figure out how to work around it and still make the build work. And 2, what if I made it worse and dislodged the sink? I didn't want to take any chances, so I just accepted the challenge. And we didn't talk about the feet, but there are feet underneath the vanity. Because this bathroom is super small, she wanted the space underneath left open for additional storage, maybe for a scale. So we opted for the feet instead of closing it off with a toe kick. I actually super love these feet and use them with every build. It makes it so easy to get any box level without needing shims. 10 out of 10, recommend. They're steel and they can handle a ton of load. Also, the 170-degree opening hinge on the right, it was totally worth all the trouble. I didn't get a video of it in place, but it opens perfectly, added a ton of functionality, and didn't hit the toilet. Win. Here's some lessons I'll take with me for the next opportunity. 1. Plan more carefully about where the hinges will go on the door and the placement of the shelf pin holes. 2. I already forgot, but I'll ask Nicola if she remembers which hinges we actually used on each side and basically only use those. 3, consider the additional width of the edge banding when measuring for cuts. And 4, continue to have fun and lean on my trusted community for those consults. Now with the vanity in place, let's do one more sanity check with the sink before I bring Carol in. I set it in place and slid the whole thing back into the corner, and it looked great. After everything, the plywood, the hinges, the heat, the multiple trips to Woodcraft, it just slid home.
Okay, I'm ready.
Oh my goodness. That is gorgeous.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. And like, look what you did here. You like matched the grain of the wood. Oh my God.
Love it.
I love it.
Yay!
You totally spoiled me. How am I ever gonna like not have a custom cabinet again?
You're welcome.
Until next time, my friends, be brave.